Welcome to today's Explainer. We're stepping into what's basically a masterclass on the high-performance mindset, pulling directly from the playbook of the legendary sports psychologist Bill Beswick. If you've ever wondered how the absolute top-tier champions keep their edge when the pressure is just crushing, well, you're in the right place. We're going straight inside the mind of a winner today.
And we're kicking things off with this absolute gut punch of a quote. There's 1,000 excuses, but not a single reason. Beswick famously dropped this zero-excuse mentality on the Bristol Bears, a rugby team that was, at the time, sitting dead last in their season. It's jarring, right? It totally strips away that cozy little safety blanket we all wrap ourselves in when things get tough. You know the feeling. You step into a challenge and suddenly your brain serves up a million reasons why you should just quit. You're exhausted, it's way too hard, you're having an off day. But a true winner's mindset, it recognizes that yeah, those excuses totally exist, but they literally do not add up to a single, valid reason to stop pushing.
So how does that actually translate out there in the real world? Well, think about the hierarchy of athletes. At the very baseline, call it step one, you've got the folks who just turn up. They do the bare minimum work required, and that's pretty much it. Then you move up to step two. These athletes put in real effort. They train every single session with the goal of winning on match night. But then there's step three, the absolute peak. These are the exceedingly rare individuals who don't just train to win, they train to dominate. They attack their training with such fierce, almost scary focus that by the time game day rolls around, winning isn't a toss-up anymore. It's an absolute inevitability.
Now, getting yourself into that elite top tier, that requires some brutal self-reflection. Beswick challenges his athletes with 3 massive questions, starting with one that honestly sounds almost too simple. What do you want? I know, it sounds basic, but as Beswick points out, a shocking number of people are completely clueless about what they actually want out of life. I mean, we are all literally writing our own life stories every single day, right? But how often do we actually stop, sit down, and think, who do I want to be? When you finally reach the end of the road and look back, what's the story you want to say you lived?
Okay, let's say you can answer that first one, and you decide, yes, I want to be the best. Boom, you are instantly hit with question number 2. How badly do you want it? Here's the harsh truth. Just wanting it isn't enough. Not even close. You have to pay the toll. And for the absolute best out there, that price is massive. It's a staggering commitment. You've got to outwork everyone, shoulder way more responsibility, and ride out emotional roller coasters that the average person just wouldn't tolerate for a second.
And that brings us to the ultimate, hardest question of the bunch. How much are you actually willing to suffer? Beswick works directly with gold medalists, and he doesn't sugarcoat this at all. They suffer every single day. They grind incredibly hard and sacrifice huge, totally normal parts of their lives just to reach that pinnacle. Greatness, as it turns out, is the exact opposite of comfortable.
It really comes down to a stark contrast in reality. Think about race day. It's an illusion of pure glamour, right? You've got the cheering crowds, cameras flashing everywhere, your friends and family hyping you up. It's a blast. But the gritty reality of how you actually earned that spot, that happens at 6 a.m. You are totally alone, sweating, struggling in the pitch black. The people in the stands don't see that isolated, painful work. But digging deep and motivating yourself for that lonely, everyday grind, that is the exact DNA of a champion.
So, what exactly are they doing during those dark 6 a.m. sessions? Well, Beswick breaks this grueling preparation down into 4 completely distinct but equally critical elements. To build an elite athlete, you have to completely master the physical, the technical, the tactical, and the mental sides of the game. You literally can't afford to ignore a single one.
Let's break down what those actually look like. The physical side, that's your raw strength, your stamina, dialing in your nutrition, getting enough sleep. The technical is all about the pure, flawless execution of your specific skills. Then you've got the tactical side, which takes serious intelligence, knowing your exact position, sticking to the game plan, and knowing how to pivot when you're suddenly a point down. But then there's the mental element. And honestly, this is the hardest piece of the puzzle. It's that wild ability to shift from the cozy comfort zone of the locker room to taking those deep breaths in the tunnel and then finally stepping out onto that field with the unshakable, bulletproof belief that you are a champion.
I want to give you a perfect real-world example of this 4-part prep in action. So Beswick was actually coaching with the England basketball team. And going into the Commonwealth Games, they were total underdogs. I mean, absolutely nobody was betting on them. Yet, against all odds, they went on to win the Commonwealth gold medal. It was literally the first time England had ever won gold in basketball. It was this massive triumph of extreme discipline and sheer mental fortitude, completely overriding raw expectations.
Picture the final 20 seconds of that championship game against New Zealand. The whistle blows, and a timeout is called. Now, look at the contrast here. Half the New Zealand squad is burning up their precious energy screaming at the referee. But the England team? They are completely dialed in. They're huddled tight around their coach, just laser-focused on their tactics for those final, crucial 20 seconds. It perfectly proves Beswick's core philosophy. You are in total control of your own mind. You choose your thoughts, and you alone decide where to direct your attitude when the pressure spikes.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but wait, what about natural, God-given talent? Beswick actually tackles this with one of my favorite phrases: genetics deals the cards, environment plays the hand. So sure, your genetics and background absolutely influence your baseline for success, but Beswick points out that there are tons of pro players out there who might only get, say, a B for genetic talent, but they score a massive A for attitude. And guess what? An A for attitude allows you to play whatever hand you were dealt to its absolute maximum potential. The best part is, having an A attitude is 100% a choice. And all of this builds up to the defining mental battle that every single one of us faces. It's the ultimate choice between the victim mentality, retreating back into your comfort zone because I'm too tired or it's just too hard, and the fighter mentality. The fighter actively steps into the challenge zone. They look the difficulty right in the face and say, yeah, this is tough, but I'm still going to deal with it. Helping athletes make that exact mental leap is essentially Beswick's entire job. But here's the thing. This isn't just sports theory. This is real life. And I want to slow down for a second here, because Beswick shared a deeply personal story that puts everything we just talked about into a crazy new perspective. This man, whose entire livelihood is teaching mental toughness to elite athletes, received a totally devastating, life-altering diagnosis: Parkinson's disease. It turns out, even a world-class sports psychologist isn't immune to basic human shock. On that agonizing drive back from the hospital with his wife, Beswick openly admits that he fell straight into the very trap he warns his players about. He slipped right into the victim mentality. The sheer fear, the overwhelming unknown, the sudden loss of control, it just completely swallowed him up in that car. But then, right in the middle of all that darkness, came the turning point. From the car, his wife called their son Philip over in London to break the heavy news. She told him, "Your dad's got Parkinson's. He's gone straight into victim mentality." And then, through the phone, Philip let out this massive, booming laugh. I know, it sounds totally crazy, but that immediate, completely unexpected laughter, it instantly shattered all that heavy, suffocating tension in the car. Philip just said he'd call them back in 10 minutes and hung up. True to his word, Philip called back exactly 10 minutes later. In that short time, he and his wife had been furiously Googling and researching the disease. He got back on the phone and told his dad, "All right, we're coming up this weekend. We're having a family action plan meeting on exactly how we're handling this Parkinson's." In a single instant, that proactive, no-nonsense response yanked Beswick straight back into the fighter mentality. They were going to face the challenge zone as a family head-on. That story is incredibly moving, but it also brings us right back to why this all matters to you and me. Beswick realized through this that there is a massive crossover between elite sports and everyday life. Honestly, we are all high performers in our own ways. We have to step up every single day to earn a living, navigate super complex relationships, manage our homes, raise kids. We all face our own grueling 6 a.m. grinds. It turns out the exact same fighter mindset required to win an Olympic gold medal is the one we need to just navigate our daily lives. So ultimately, Beswick says the real underlying goal of all this mental conditioning isn't actually about just winning games or even creating better athletes. The true goal is forging better people. It's about building individuals who are incredibly capable of writing their own life stories in a positive, productive, and wildly resilient way, regardless of whatever messy hand genetics or life happens to deal them.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to ask ourselves as we wrap up this explainer. I really want you to take a second and think about this. Are you writing your life story as a victim or as a fighter? When you wake up tomorrow morning and inevitably face your own hurdles, which mentality are you going to choose? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mind of a winner. Keep fighting out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.